All right, YouTube. This Detroit's HPTV coming to you out of Detroit. Back with another video on this Wednesday. We got to talk about it. At this point, you have to really look sideways at the Democratic Party. It's like the blind is leading the blind in that party. They can't understand how they lost an election and why they lost support from the people. They ran a whole election cycle on late term termination of pregnancy, transgendering of children, open borders, tampons in the boys' bathroom, and a lot of things that the American people rejected. They ran a campaign that was anti God, anti family, and anti country. They lost the House, the Senate, the presidency. The conservatives even have the Supreme Court. They're coming out now blaming the conservatives for an airplane that crashed in Canada. They say the conservative leadership hasn't fixed the economy, and it's only been a month. They're kicking and screaming about audits, where the audits have revealed that FEMA gave $59 million to illegal immigrants while American citizens starved in the streets. They gave them bridge cards with $1,200 that created food deserts in our communities because they was giving the average person maybe $200, $300, and they get before you and they fearmonger and they lie and they don't make sense. And for some reason, a lot of people have an emotional connection to their liberalism, even though it undermines their very lives. They tried to run Kamala Harris, who cosplayed as a black woman, to manipulate the black community into voting for her based on identity politics. They knew she was winning. They knew Trump was winning, and they didn't even tell their people to stop soliciting for donations in a campaign that had already failed. And yet they're in front of you and they're telling you to fight and be the resistance when they have no power. They're commanding you and calling you to the streets to stand up to a duly elected president and his administration against the 77 million people that voted for him. It's to the point to where their misinformation and the misleading of the people is criminal and sinister, because they're advising you to do things to your own detriment. They have a new person on the rise that they want to be the face of the Democratic Party. And if you can't see the manipulation that's going on, then you're blind. The Democratic Party cannot even compete in any election without the support of the black community, because there's not enough liberals to win an election in a country that is turning conservative, who have rejected their policies and their agenda. So the only secure base that they want to maintain is the black community. So they parade these black people out that are loyal to the Democratic Party blindly. And it's for a paycheck because they all became millionaires. They won't do the history and tell you or tell their constituents that the Democratic Party are the party that fought to uphold slavery, created the Ku Klux Klan, created Jim Crow, and created redlining. And then in this modern age, is the party that wanted to turn your sons into daughters. But they need them desperately to even maintain a party. So they put someone in front of you who looks like you to mislead you. They give you sellouts, bootlegs, and traitors to their own community and race as your leaders. The Al Sharptons, the Roland Martins, the Joy Reids. They give you these people and they come out and they play with your emotions and they scream racism, racism, while you ignore the capitalism, the communism, the socialism that's keeping you down. And now, Jasmine Crockett is advising people who don't agree with Trump to resign from their jobs. Don't stay on your job and try to make a difference. Resign as an act of defiance. As if the conservatives are just not going to just cry about that. The conservatives are going to replace those people with people that support their agenda. So even in their logic, or what they claim to be as logic, they make the community weaker. Resign from your job because you disagree with who's in office. Become a part of the unemployed as an act of defiance. It's like when they had Al Sharpton telling people, don't shop at Target because they got rid of DEI. When Target is one of the few mainstream outlets that give Black entrepreneurs shelves to sell their merchandise. When you go to Target and Walmart and these places, most of the time you see the people working there are Black people. So they want you to boycott them. They lose their job, all for a political statement, a failed statement. They're trying to get seats for 2006. And they're trying to hold on to the emotional attachment that the Black community has to them. But they're advising you to do things that will only hurt you and your community and your families while they still become millionaire politicians. I want you to see Jasmine Crockett in this interview. And I want you to hear her call Elon Musk boo and do all those things that is cute in the ghetto. You know, being called boo in the ghetto may be cute, but on a political stage, it's stereotypical and uncouth. But this is your leadership. Are these your leaders? So without further ado, I want to get into the clip. This is for fair usage under the 1976 Copyright Act for commentary and educational purposes. Watch your new leader in the Democratic Party. Check out her characteristics and listen to what she says as she cheers people on who resigned from their job in protest, as if the conservatives care that a liberal quit their job. Check this out.
Joining me now is someone on the front lines of the effort to push back against Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is a Democrat of Texas. She's a member of the House Oversight Committee on DOGE. Congresswoman, welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah.
This is a tricky one. Now, you have the benefit of you were not a member of Congress in the first Trump administration. You were in government, but this is what's your take on what resistance looks like for you, for me, for society, for those lawyers at the DOJ? What are you supposed to do?
Yeah. So
I'm just going to stop there for 1 minute because he's asking this lady, what does resistance look like? Because they say all kind of words. On Roland Martin, they say revolution. Hakeem Jeffrey says fight in the streets. Resistance against your government. Fight your neighbors. They talk as if they have their own military, their own Navy SEALs, their own Marines, their own Air Force, their own drones. They're leading you into a situation that will only benefit them in the end because she's not quitting her job. She's telling you to. She's using words that are treasonous and traitorous when you have a duly elected official. You haven't seen the Democratic Party this angry and this mad since Abraham Lincoln took their slaves. Watch some more.
First of all, hats off to each and every person who literally said that I have some ethics about myself and therefore I'm just going to resign. That's as it relates to the DOJ as well as every other agency. The scary part about this, though, is that only his lackeys will be left running our governmental agencies, whatever is left of those governmental agencies.
So why are you tipping your hat to the people who resigned and opened those positions up for conservatives who you claim to be your enemy?
Think about resistance, though. I've had a lot of conversations. And one of the things that keeps coming up is how the former governor of this state was consistently doing daily briefings in the midst of COVID because we couldn't trust anything that Donald Trump was saying about the pandemic. Right. So everyone tuned in to really what almost was like the shadow.
The pandemic that we have found out actually was created in Wuhan, China. The Dr. Fauci that advised the American people, who now needed a blanket pardon because he went in front of Congress and had to admit that they were working on the very virus that triggered the pandemic. She's really saying the quiet part out loud if you listen. Her intellectual capacity is overestimated by herself because everything that she's saying is self-serving. It will only benefit politicians. It will not benefit working class people. As I told you before, while they are giving aid and comfort to immigrants, 2 children froze in Detroit. They won't mention that American citizens can't get housing while they come and they stump the ground and get you to get behind the immigrants and ignore your own people. Tell me the logic in this.
President, the guy that was going to give us facts and not tell us to inject ourselves with bleach. Right. I think that we need to do something similar to that because all they're going to do, him and his new press secretary, is spew lies upon lies upon lies. We need to daily brief the American people. That's number one. Number two, a lot of people are talking about.
They need to daily brief you and fearmonger you and scare you and lie to you like CNN and MSNBC does to keep you on the Democratic plantation. Because if they don't use fear and misinformation, you'll wake up and see that the Democratic Party is still the same old Dixiecrats that wanted to keep people in bondage for slavery, but now it's free labor or cheap labor.
You know what? We just are looking forward to the midterms. We only need 3 more seats. I'm sure everybody's tired of getting emails, text messages, phone calls.
I told you. They need 3 more seats to even be relevant. So how do they get those 3 seats? Who's going to vote and put them in any position to be the majority again? Unless they scare you into it. They screaming about an audit of the IRS, who audits all the American people. And now you're finding out that they've been stealing your money, using your taxes to fund things that you don't agree with, and you're mad about it. People are even mad that RFK wants to take the poison out of food so that you don't need the poison that comes from Big Pharma.
To raise money, but the reality is that we have an opportunity right now. I know that a lot of people look at these seats that are available, which there's going to be a total of 3, and they say these are deep red seats. But here's the thing. We saw that in the state of Iowa, they swung a seat 27 points so that a Democrat could win. I say we have nothing to lose. We need to go out. We need to talk to those people that finally understand that the only mission that Donald Trump has is making sure that he can line his pockets, line Elon's pockets, and any other billionaire, all at our expense. It's not just going to be the people you dislike that are going to miss out on their Medicare, Medicaid, or their Social Security, or down in the state of Florida, where 2 of.
Now I'm going to ask you, do you really believe Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, who's doing these audits for free, is doing it so he could take your Social Security check. Forget the fact that he has the contracts with the Pentagon, and the only person who's making a rocket that is going to go get the 2 astronauts that's been lost in space the whole Biden administration. Have y'all forgotten? It's 2 astronauts that's been stranded in space that they had abandoned. They abandoned those astronauts like they abandoned those American citizens when they pulled out of Afghanistan and left the weapons to the Taliban, who now you find out your taxpayer money has been funding. You can't be this naive.
These seats are, they are talking about getting rid of FEMA. It is time to wake up, and it doesn't mean that you're a Democrat. Right.
Whoa. You're not talking about the FEMA that didn't help North Carolina or California but gave $59 million to immigrants? Yeah, get rid of FEMA. I'm with that.
You vote democratically. So this is where I want to get to. Who's the audience to swing some of these states? Is it progressives who understand that their priorities are being crushed, or is it people who voted Republican to whom you say you didn't vote for this, did you? Exactly. You didn't vote for Elon Musk and a guy named Big Balls to have your documentation. Yeah. How does that message get out there in a way that?
Yes, we did. Yes, the people did. Donald Trump said he was going after the deep state. Yes, he did. He said he was going to get rid of all this pronouns and all these 70 genders, and he did. They did vote for that. These people are delusional. The Democrats will never learn. Fear-mongering is their only sale to you at this point. Elon Musk wants to take your Social Security Social Security number. Really? The richest man in the world? He's trying to take your Social Security? After he's just found out that people who are 100 and 200 years old have been receiving checks? You got to do your own research on these people, because a lie unchecked becomes the truth.
The entire audience hears it. I think that you're right. Definitely the entire audience. I just don't know how many progressives exist in Matt Gaetz' former districts, right? But I do think that there are farmers in that district, farmers that are concerned because they rely upon monies as it relates to USAID. Yep. And other monies that are now being dismantled. And it means that you may lose your family farm. It may be bought up by a corporate organization. And so I think just having very real conversations, we've seen people who have talked about, well, we don't want you firing the people at the VA, or maybe it's somebody that has to fly all the time and they're concerned because we have a record number of planes literally falling out of the sky because he decided he was going to appoint some guy from Fox to be over transportation.
Now think about this. Think about the dastardliness of saying that the plane crashes is somehow the conservatives' fault. Plane crashes? They're blaming the Trump administration for a plane crash in Canada. It's to the point they think they can say anything to the American people. Anything. Didn't Trump walk into the office January the 20th? This is February the 19th. She wants you to believe that planes are crashing because he won an election.
But at the end of the day, there were those that never believed that we could end up with 2 senators in the state of Georgia, and we did. There were those that never believed we could have a Democrat representing Alabama, and in that special election, we did. So I think if there's any point in time that the people should rise up and figure out where should I focus my attention, it's on these special elections, and it's having real conversations on the doors with real people talking about what's really happening and not the lies that they're putting out there. I want to go back to this idea. There are a lot of people frustrated about where a lot of Democrats are in this mix. Yeah. You're out there a lot. We've talked several times. You've got a take on everything that happens. This concept about a daily briefing.
I strip on sick days.
Breathe Right strips have spring-like bands that open your nose, instantly relieving nasal congestion. So every breath feels, ah.
It's we've talked about whether we should act more like a parliamentary system here, where the opposition's got a job to do every day, and you see them as often as you see a prime minister. What does that look like? Have you had this conversation with a lot of your colleagues about how this looks?
I've been trying to work through it because I think when we compare it to what was happening in COVID, it was just one subject.
Right.
And for us as Democrats, we like to have experts. We don't just want to talk in mouth, right? And so it's a matter of how do we know what's coming to make sure that we've got the right expert on hand. But I think that it would be great if at least maybe every Friday we have a different attorney general or the same one that talks about the status of the cases, right? I think that there's things that we can do. We can just maybe decide on what days we're going to have transportation, and maybe we can pull on Secretary Buttigieg to come through and say, this is the day that I will pick up and I will talk about what's happening at FAA.
That's a lot of maybes. But maybe you should try to find out how to best serve and help your constituencies. Because under your leadership, American people have suffered hardships unbearably while you uplifted and supported illegal immigrants. And have you ever noticed that the Democratic shields, the black ones, they won't mention anything about illegal immigration? How they won't mention how the conservative community doesn't want their children transgender? They keep telling you that Trump is a liar. He's a liar. He's a liar. While they lied to your face. They kept saying he was a fascist, while they wanted to censor the American people so that you wouldn't have a voice. You have to really look at them with discernment and do your own research.
I think we also have to start having some field hearings. We've got to go into their territory. We've got to explain to people in rural America, the reason that you don't have hospitals is because of their policies. The reasons you're not going to have schools is because of their policies. The reason that you had access to more jobs, more healthcare, as well as the next level of farming was because Democrats were the ones that wanted to make sure that you could have broadband access. We've got to start having the conversations instead of just ceding the territory, because the reality is that right now they're trying to cut SNAP benefits. You know who uses more SNAP benefits than anybody else? It's rural America. It's not urban America. We have a story for every single person who's not a billionaire in this country, and it's time for us to tell it.
So you had an interesting story, which I wasn't going to bring up because my parents watched this show, but you were involved in a hearing with Elon Musk about condoms. Right? Do you remember this whole?
It wasn't with Elon. Elon, if you're watching, come through, boo, because you haven't shown up to the Doge subcommittee.
I bet that was cute to y'all. That was cute. Come through, boo. Is this your leadership? Come through, boo. That's finished.
Right. And you called him out at that subcommittee. But this became weird because Buddy Carter, your colleague from Georgia, started talking about how we were giving condoms to the Taliban. And then Donald Trump himself, then it became about Gaza, but it would have to have been about 7,000 condoms per person. And then he said it was just Hamas, which none of it made sense. But it caused a lot of people to have to run around and follow the story and find out that we give condoms as part of USAID to prevent the spread of HIV to a place in Mozambique called Gaza province.
Correct.
This is the nonsense we have to deal with here.
It's not even just nonsense.
No, the nonsense is that you're misleading the people, because you just admitted that you're giving condoms to Mozambique in a place in a city named Gaza. And I don't know, I'm an American citizen. I didn't know that y'all were spending millions of dollars giving Mozambique, city of Gaza, millions of dollars worth of condoms? Who voted for that?
That they're idiots. I mean, these are the same guys, remember, as it relates to our nuclear stockpile, right? They're like, oh, wait a minute, we needed those guys.
Yeah.
Oh, can we get them back? Oh, we don't know how to. Like, I don't know how anyone in this country can look at this administration and feel some semblance of any type of confidence, right? And this is all at the same time. Like, Elon doesn't want.
These are the people that had Joe Biden out there senile and in full dementia and told the American people, don't believe your lying eyes. He has the stamina of a 30-year-old. He's quick on his feet. There's nothing wrong with Joe Biden. They told us that. And then as soon as he had his first debate with Trump and embarrassed himself, they stabbed him in the back and replaced him with the Hindu lady who told you she was black.
Us talking about the fact that he has received almost $1 billion worth of new contract money from the U.S. government in just 2 weeks.
Yep.
$400 million for Tesla and over $300 million for SpaceX. This is nothing more than a money grab. He's not out there trying to save money for the American people. That's not what he's doing. He's lining his pockets, and at the same time, he's outraged
by doing free audits of FEMA, the IRS, USAID, and found out all the waste that went into the trillions. I wouldn't care if they gave Elon $400 million. He found over $1 trillion that had been stolen from the American people. Really? I think they think we're stupid out here.
People who don't know exactly how we spend our money and how it benefits us, to make sure that things like HIV and AIDS doesn't become the worldwide pandemic that it used to be.
Yeah.
Exactly. Same thing with everything else that we're dealing with, because now we know Ebola was found where? Here in New York.
Yep.
I mean, we need people that are experts, not idiots that play on Fox News or play on the internet.
Wow. Did y'all believe anything she said? Because she kept having to come back and say, okay, the condoms didn't go to Gaza Strip. They went to Gaza in Mozambique. Elon is trying to line your pockets, even though he's already the richest man in the world, and exposing the fraud in the Social Security Administration and in FEMA. You should be outraged that this administration is draining the swamp and going after the deep state. Are you outraged? Not me. Well, this is Detroit's HPTV, comes to you out of Detroit. Y'all keep your head on the swivel. Support the channel. And as always, salute to all patriots. Peace.